Hi, everyone. Really excited to have you with us today. I'm especially excited about today's webinar, Service Trends, How Social Media Helps You Offer an Amazing Customer Experience. So let's just go ahead and get started. I just want to quickly go over our forward-looking statement. You may have seen these. These are pretty common for any Salesforce event, presentation, or webinar. And it just simply states, as a publicly traded company, we ask that you base all of your buying decisions only on currently available technology. I'm very pleased to introduce Brent Leary, who is not only an amazing expert in the CRM space, but he has over 15 years consulting experience, specifically in the areas we're talking about today: customer experience, customer support, and everything in between. My name is Elvis Greer. I'm a product marketer here at Salesforce, specifically focused on small and medium businesses. And I'm going to go ahead and let Brent take it from here.
Information to go through, but we're going to make it go pretty quick. But if you do have some questions along the way, I know Elvis is going to be checking that things out in the Q&A section, and if there's something we can answer right away, we'd love to do it. So I always like to get started on the whole idea of where things are going. When you're talking about customer experience and customer engagement, the first word, of course, is customer. And there's nothing that is changing quicker than customer expectations for better experiences to be provided on an ongoing basis. And so nothing is, your customers are changing more, but it's because of technology, the way that they're adapting technology into their lives and looking for ways to actually change the way they do things for the better. And technology is the one kind of thing that's leveling the playing field. But I love this slide because it talks about what technology is, how technology is empowering the customer, but it's also looking at it not just from the consumer side, but from the business buyer side, because basically, everybody's a consumer in some form or fashion, whether it's in their personal lives or in the professional lives, where that may be where they're buying things for their business. But look how much technology is changing things. I love this around technology has made it easier than ever to take my business elsewhere. That's important not only for consumers but business buyers. So business buyers are also able to transition to other competition because technology makes it easier for them to do so, just like it does for us individual consumers. And it's, switching brands is a lot easier because of this technology. And being able to make sure that whoever is servicing them is meeting today's needs and expectations, not yesterday's needs and expectations. So it's constantly changing, which means that you have to be able to keep up and move with those changes in expectations and needs, be it consumers or business buyers. So these numbers pretty much tell the story of why that's so critically important. So we're going to talk a little bit about subscription economy stuff a little bit later, but when you think about what's moving things, what's making customers do things, it's not the price as much. They're not as price sensitive, although they're always going to be price sensitive, but not as much as they used to be. And it's not even about the product as much anymore. If you have a good product along with good experiences, and that customer experience is the thing that seems to be really driving customers' decisions, whether they stay with you, whether they bring you referrals. The better the experience is, the more likelihood those things are happening. So what you're seeing basically is a less emphasis on price and product and more emphasis on experiences and services. So that's why we're in today's market, in today's economy, it's not about selling a one-off product anymore as much as it's about selling an experience that can be and experiences that can extend the lifetime that we have with our customer base. So we know we have to have solid products, and we know they have to be price competitive. But the thing that's moving the needle is the experiences that go along with both those price and product points.
Hey, Brent, so that's kind of a really important transition for everybody listening, especially those business owners, right? Like the combination of not only is it really, really easy for all of us to find an alternative because of the web and just the proliferation of technology, but also now having a great product isn't going to cut it. You really need to make those customers feel like they're the only customers and surround them with like an amazing experience.
Well, yeah, and it's such an important thing, and it can't be understated or overstated, excuse me. The reason that customers have more power today is because technology allows them to have that power, and because of that, they're able to find better or things that suit their needs better over time, and that may mean moving to different vendors because the technology makes it easier for them to do so. They're moving to those different vendors because they're looking for the right kind of experiences, and those things that they need today and the expectations that they have today are not going to be the same a month from now, a year from now. And so being able to have a better understanding of what they're going to need and what they're going to want, you're going to have to put that into some experiences that allow them to take those things in over time and stay connected with you over time. Because if you don't, there's going to be competition that's going to do it for you. So that's really a key thing to take in and realize as we go through this presentation.
Thanks for clarifying.
Absolutely. And I think the thing that really drives it home is that I love this stat here because, once again, it's focusing on customers, their expectations, and how they change over time. So companies focusing on providing superior experiences across customer journeys. So it's not just in one phase, not just in the customer service phase, not just in the sales phase, not in the marketing, but being able to, whatever they need, whatever they want at that particular time, being able to provide that kind of experience, the right kind of experience at the right time in their customer life cycle, their customer journey. Look what the opportunity is: 10 to 15% increase in revenue, and a 20% increase in customer satisfaction. Those are two things: the revenue increase and the customer satisfaction. They're going to go hand in hand. And so if you're able to provide those better experiences, you're going to reap the benefits over time with more revenue, whether that's cross-sell, upsell, or just extended customer lifetime. Because if we're able to extend the amount of years they're a customer, that means we're going to extend the revenue we get from them. So that's the benefit of focusing and emphasizing customer experience throughout the life cycle. It's not just about customer service, but it's a really important part of it. But it's about how do we get them on board to begin with? How do we turn them into not just a one-time customer, but a long-time customer? And then also, how do we entice them to be an advocate on our behalf? Better experiences throughout the life cycle do that for us.
Hey, Brent, I know we're about to jump into the how, and I know there's a lot of facets to this, and I don't want the people that are maybe new to this terminology, or even people that may think they have one definition of customer experience versus another. I know it's a term that's often thrown out there, quite a bit and haphazardly. And so I was wondering if you could take a minute and just explain kind of like the significance of a customer experience, more so in how it's defined. I know we're going to talk about the how, but if you could really give us a clear definition so that everybody's on the same page, I think that'd be great.
Oh, absolutely. So when you think about customer experience, it's everything that happens between you and a customer, from the time before they're a customer, from when they're discovering or looking for a solution to a challenge they have, to the experience they have and getting that information and kind of going through some interactions to becoming a full-blown customer, to be in the sales process that they go through in order to become a full-time customer. And then what are the things that you're able to do to make it easy for them to get the information after they become a customer, if they need help, how they're able to get that assistance, whether it's self-service or if it's a chat or email. And then also providing them the opportunity to have a say in the future services. You don't want them just to be just a kind of a one-off customer. You want them to actually become a partner of sorts, an ambassador, and that's all a part of the way that they interact with you, they engage with you, they feel that you value them. So it's not just about the transaction, but it's about the value they provide beyond the transaction, and that's where the idea of customer experience comes in. It's part of customer service, but it's also part of being a partner, being an ambassador.
Perfect. Thanks.
Oh, absolutely. And I love this slide because I did a research project with the folks over at Social Media Today over over a 5-year period, where we were looking at how companies were integrating social tools into their traditional customer service processes. And one thing that we found throughout the study was that companies that had a structured, implemented, automated process for sharing service insights across the different parts of the business. So all those interactions between the service folks and the customers, whether it's through chat, email, phone call, there's a lot of great insights that can be gathered from those interactions. And if we're able to share those interactions, not just with other service folks, but with the marketing folks, with the product development folks, with the sales team, if we're able to take those great insights and spread them across the organization who are also touching the customer, well, that gives us a much better opportunity to create better customer experience across the board. And so our survey, what we found was that companies that had a structured, implemented process through technology to share those insights found that they were getting very big impact on their customer service goals and objectives, creating better experiences for their customers, and seeing an extended customer life cycle. Very important to kind of take all those other things that we saw in the first slides, but this is where the kind of the metal hits the road, being able to take those interactions and use them across the board, not just in the service group, but in all phases where customers and our company interact. Now, one area that is really, you can really get a good highlight in the importance of customer experience is this whole area of the subscription economy, where we're doing more and more of subscribing to things rather than buying them outright. And I love kind of this whole idea of selling subscriptions is where relationships trump transactions. We're not looking for one quick deal. We're looking for a sustained, long-lasting relationship, because basically we're not selling and getting a big transaction, one big transaction. What we're doing is we're taking a monthly fee for as long as the customer sees value in what we're providing. So that means that we have to keep always understanding what's important to them month over month over month. And we have to be able to figure out the best ways to give it to them in a way that provides value for not just them, but for our business as well. So that's where customer experience has to be baked in from the very beginning. As a matter of fact, the business model has to have customer service, customer experience as part of the business model from the very beginning, because we don't have the opportunity to do what was done traditionally in the past, maybe 10, 15 years ago, where you build the widget, and then once the widget is built, then you try to sell the widget, and then when you sell the widget enough, you start getting the phone calls when you get the broken widgets. And then if you get enough of those phone calls, then you have to figure out, well, how do we service the widgets? So you really don't have the service model baked in right from the very beginning from a traditional business standpoint. But with a subscription business, you absolutely have to, because if you get that person on board first month and then they have an issue and you don't know how to solve that issue the next month, well, guess what? They're not going to be your customer in month 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is where customer experience has to be done right away in order to be a part of the overall business model in such a way that you're able to stay connected, understand what's going to move the market, understand the value that needs to be added or things that need to be tweaked in order to stay connected with that customer over the long haul. So that's where we're going to talk a little bit more about this, but I love this quote. I just had an opportunity to talk with Teenswo, who was is the CEO and used to be Salesforce. I think he was the chief strategy officer years ago at Salesforce. But he and Zwar is one of the leaders and the folks who kind of evangelize the whole area of the subscription economy. But I love this quote because it kind of says it kind of capsulizes what I just said about you don't have to hit a home run. You don't have to have the product from day one, but you have to get something that's good and credible and relevant into the marketplace that people do find value with, and then work with the customers over time to iterate on that product, to find the things that they're going to need over time, to be able to add those experiences in order to stay connected with them, and for order for them to stay a customer over the long term. So that's why customer experience is incredibly important from the very giddy up when you're starting to think about a subscription business. Matter of fact, I just did a briefing with Zora, and they said something that really stood out. They said that when you look at S&P 500 companies versus subscription companies, subscription companies are growing at, I believe they said, about a 15x rate over S&P 500 companies. Now, of course, S&P 500 companies are bigger, but that's still a huge difference in growth when you look at subscription companies versus the folks in the S&P 500.
Hey, Brent, another question actually came up, and I think we're hitting on kind of like, I think the most important part of this entire presentation is kind of the effect all of this has on the bottom line in the business. And one of the individuals who is on the webinar with us right now basically said, so, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, so this basically can boil down to like net promoter score. And from my experience, and I definitely want to hear your take on this, net promoter score is absolutely tied into all of this. I think that is an outcome of a great customer experience, but I think two important facts that I want to kind of speak to from my experience, and again, would love to hear yours, is number one, the vast majority of your customers, and I'm talking 90+%, will never tell you anything, whether it's a positive or negative experience. And the only way you're going to know those people are happy or not happy is at the end of the quarter, you're checking your bottom line, you notice that you have less customers than you did before. And then number two is that you need, like to your point, you need to have this process in place from day one, because there's going to be so many times when you're really not going to be able to clearly gauge, like, how is this affecting my customers? So you know, if you have a process in place that's solid and that you're treating everybody equally and fantastically, no matter how they touch your business, you can be much more confident in the outcome of that process versus not having a process at all. And curious what you think about that.
Yeah, you couldn't be more correct there, Elvis. I mean, actually, I do a weekly conversation series over at a site called smallbusinesstrends.com, and I recently had the opportunity to speak to a CMO of a company called, actually, she is the CMO and Chief Customer Happiness Officer for a company called lifesize.com, and which I believe is also a Salesforce customer. So they they do HD video conferencing. They were a company that was bought by a hardware manufacturer, and then they got spun off to be their own company, and they went from basically kind of operating as a manufacturing company, which is product focused, to a cloud-based subscription company. And one of the things that they did right away was to implement NPS, but also they realized they had to change the culture of the organization to be a service cloud-focused company, and also look for feedback. Not only look for feedback, but actually put it in play. When they were the manufacturing company, they did customer feedback surveys, but then they found that they never did anything with them. But now, as a cloud-based subscription service, they're doing surveys and then immediately looking for ways to incorporate the feedback from customers into better experiences, more aligned offerings to the customer base. And they're always checking Net Promoter. And they actually, this is strictly from them, they said they went from an NPS of -4, which I didn't even know you could do, but apparently you can. But within 2 years' time, they went from a -4 to a 70+ NPS score, which to me is pretty incredible. But they did that because they realized they had to change the culture. They had to go from a product-driven culture to a service-oriented culture, and then provide feedback, ongoing feedback, gather feedback through the systems and through actually asking through surveys. And through that combination, that got them down the road to where they are today. And they're not stopping there, but they had to put that foundation of matching a service culture and a service business model before they could go and get further along down the road.
It's amazing.
And it's great too because now we're at this slide here, and this is a company called Carvana. It's kind of a good case study around the importance of customer experience. And for you who aren't really familiar with Carvana, although they have some pretty good commercials out right now that make me laugh, but they basically are kind of the modern day that you would go about buying a used car. So if you go to Carvana.com, you'll see a lot more of what I'm talking about. But basically, um, we all know that used car salesmen have gotten kind of a reputation that they probably deserve, which is not the best. And so, even though you need to, sometimes you need to buy a car if you're not subscribing to something like Zipcar, but if you need to buy a car and you want to buy a used car, one of the biggest hassles is going there and dealing with salespeople. So Carvana basically said, how can we take modern technology and a much better fit with technology to a business model that works for customers in the modern age, and kind of apply this new tools to this old dog. And what they did was come up with a modern website, modern processes where you're able to go to the website, look for the car, find everything you need to find out about the car, be able to choose financing for the car if you don't already have it. You can choose insurance, so you can do everything on this website. And they say that, I believe it's about 40% of their customer base can actually go and buy the car online from beginning to end in 20 minutes or less. And then the really interesting part is, if you want it, you can have it delivered, just like Amazon. You can basically order the car up and then have it delivered to, I think it's 7 days or less, or something like that. Or if you're in Atlanta, which is where I live, there is actually a car vending machine, which is really pretty crazy. But you can actually, like you're buying a Coke at the vending machine, so you can order the car on their site. You can get everything you need. You can get all the information that you need to make the decision, get the financing, get your insurance, hit the button, and then if you're in Atlanta, you can go to the car vending machine, and they send you this like big coin. You take the big coin into the car vending machine, put the coin in the machine, and the car comes out. So what have they done? They've done a new spin off of something that's been around forever, but people seem to be liking it. They went from $4.5 million in revenue in their first year of operation to over $100 million in second. And it's all because they provided the kind of experience that modern customers are looking for whenever they start to buy something like a car. So look at that approach. You can see how almost every industry is being disrupted because of modern technology and what it can do to customer experiences. And so that's just one example of it. But there's tons and tons. We already know about the Ubers and the Airbnbs and almost everything you look at. There's a big. I do a lot of transcriptions. You can do to a service that actually within 20 minutes can give you a 30-minute transcription of your conversation, and it's done by machines. So almost every kind of business service is being disrupted, and it's not just the technology, it's the experiences, the processes that you layer into the new technologies to change the overall approach that's much more aligned with today's customer.
Those are some pretty amazing examples. I'm going to check out a video of this car vending machine after this webinar for sure.
Oh, you got to do it, man, because I'll shoot you a link and we can get it to everybody too, because it's really fascinating how that thing works.
Excellent.
So I think that kind of sets up this whole idea of this. It's definitely a new era of customer engagement. I mean, we just kind of went through how we've taken a new spin off of something that's been around forever, and it's reaping benefits for the folks who are able to kind of think of these new business models and then use the technology to apply them. And so it fits a lot with this whole new era of customer engagement, which is basically all the interactions, all the experiences that we share with our customers, and how do we make sure that we're doing it in such a way that extends the life cycle that we have with them. So we know that there's more engagement going on mobile. We know that there's more engagement going on and for different kinds of interactions with companies and customers, and that this is the number one reason is this digital approach that is continually being kind of rolled out and reinvigorated, reimagined, year after year after year. So you see the numbers there. I think it's really important. I love this. 64% of companies are beyond experimental stage, and this was as of 2011. So you have to think now that we're way beyond it. But I think it's really important to say, even though we're way beyond the experimental stage, and companies are doing things now, you're always going to have to kind of be in the mode to be learning and be open to being flexible, because technology is changing so rapidly, and the adoption of technology is changing rapidly as well. So what worked 2 years ago may not be working that great now, and then 2 years from now, who knows what's going on. You can look at the social networks and see how things have changed dramatically over time. Twitter is not as far along as Facebook is, and who knows what will be happening in 2 years. Is Snapchat going to be taken over? Is it going to be something else that we're not even talking about? But we have to have these frameworks built so that we can use whatever the tools are that will be important, and be able to use that to stay connected and build our engagement structure. So once again, customer service is just a piece of the puzzle. It's an important piece, but so is our relationships with customers actually start before they become customers. I mean, when people are looking for answers to solutions or the challenges they are engaged in, that's your opening salvo for them being your customer. So how do they get their information? Who are they looking for information? Who are the influencers? How do we build kind of our customer framework that takes all this in consideration? What are the different channels that they want to use? They may be using certain channels for certain kinds of engagement. They may use other channels for other kinds of engagement. But all of these things are what go into their experiences that they have with us. The individual interactions make up those experiences, and how do we layer those experiences across the different life cycle stages that we have with them. So customer support, of course, is a part of that, but so is going through the sales process, so is going through marketing, so is getting their feedback, so is helping, kind of making them a partner and a advocate. All of these are pieces of the customer experience puzzle, and as much as we can kind of look at and predict where they go, we're able to provide the right experiences and opportunities for engagement that they're looking for. And in some instances, they don't even know that they're looking for it yet. But we're able to take all this information that is provided to us, these digital interactions that they have with us, and that we're able to look at, analyze, and see, well, they might not know it, but this seems to be where they want to go. So let's make it easier for them to get there and provide a better experience on the way. All right, so I know that, I know, Elvis, you got some things you want to say about this. I'll just kick it off a little bit here. But, I mean, we already know this. It's good to have the numbers, the actual details, but everything is going through to social and mobile. We know that social media is playing a bigger role in buying decisions and how they communicate with companies, how they communicate with the people like them who are in the same boat, who may have left a good review over at you name the site. There's a lot of good review sites out there for consumers and for business. So you're seeing more of a dependence on these kinds of sites, on interacting with folks who are in their same place, and they're using social channels to do that. So you can see these numbers, and I think you'll be able to get the slide deck, but it's so important that we understand how quickly these patterns shift Because even though today they may be what we're seeing today, a year from now, who knows how things are going to be moving. So it's important to have your ability to understand, to stay connected over time, to be able to look at what's coming down the pike, so that you're able to quickly move. You may not have to move immediately, but when you do have to move, you're probably going to have to move pretty quickly because things just change the way they do that right now. So, Elvis, did you want to add a little something here?
Yeah, you can transition to the next slide, and I'll add on that. And I think the two important factors on my end is that, like, unfortunately, as a business, we don't get to decide kind of like our strategy sometimes, right? Especially when it's customer facing. Your customers are going to decide where and when they want to reach out to you, and you're going to have to react to that, have to respond to that. And so with social, it's not a question of, I'll get to it. It's a question of how do you bake this in from day one? It's not just about email, it's not just about phone, but it's thinking about all these channels at once and figuring out at least how can you integrate all of these channels so that you can get back to your customers more quickly. And then the second, I think even more important issue is that with social media, it's not one voice is one voice. One voice is now 10 voices, 100 voices, a million voices, depending on who that voice is. And so people are empowered by that. I mean, we as customers, and that's the beautiful thing about customer service and customer experience. It doesn't matter if you're a business owner or you're trying to, figure out how customers are thinking about your product or your service. It's like we're all customers and we all know how it feels when we don't get the experience that we want. And we all know how much more powerful and how much more meaningful it can be to have those interactions on social because your voice becomes much louder. And so where that brings us to this slide is, again, like for those of you, I mean, I'm sure most of the people on this webinar and on this call understand Salesforce, right? But in a nutshell, Salesforce is all about using technology to connect businesses with their customers and have more information in real time about their customers so they can make the right decisions. Now, today, we're focused almost solely on customer experience, customer service, and of course, social. And so it's really important that the technology solutions that you're looking at have the ability to integrate all of these channels into one place, right? Because, and then you can go to the next slide, Brent. A perfect example is, just as people are getting to the point where like, okay, we're really feeling comfortable with supporting our customers on social. I mean, some companies are amazing at it. Think of like some awesome campaigns with Oreo, or even this recent feud with, Nordstrom and Ivanka Trump, her clothing line. If you guys just look that up online, you'll see like even somebody as well respected as Nordstrom isn't immune to somebody's words on social, and you have to really be prepared for that. But just as we're embracing this, now we're talking about text, right? And text brings this, and Brent, obviously you're going to go into this in a much deeper level, but text and messaging in general brings a whole nother level of sophistication, but I will say opportunity to your relationship as a business with your customers, right? Because there are billions of conversations happening every single day. And whether you're listening or not, your customers are talking. And so, they've taken to social not to just to voice complaints, but they're also asking for help, as I said. And so in this connected world, right? Like we like to say that a lot at Salesforce because it truly is a connected world, whether it's businesses and customers or anybody speaking to family, friends, what have you. We're all used to technology and we're all very clear on how technology can make our lives easier, especially as it comes to being connected, right? And so now we're talking about texting, and Brent, you'll talk about the technology that's involved behind this. But in short, like messaging just means this is giving you the opportunity to be much more conversational with your customers, right? It's not a rote response. It's not a predetermined response, but it's actually taking, a response from your customers and making that a personal conversation just like you'd have with your mom, your dad, or your friend. And now, obviously, that one-on-one connection is hard to do at scale. And so, I'll let Brent delve in a little bit more deeply about this and talk about how companies like Facebook are using technology to kind of deal with the scale issue.
Thanks, Elvis. That was great. And yeah, I got to check out that the Nordstrom's thing because I hear the impact is kind of big. So it's kind of interesting that you brought that one up.
Very interesting story, yeah.
Absolutely. So you can't kind of disconnect social from mobile at this point. And I love this slide here because it talks about how as important and as used as social networking apps are, they've been eclipsed by messaging apps. And that's why I think one of the reasons you saw Facebook a couple of years ago, or maybe it was just last year, it's hard to keep track of some of these things, that they basically force more and more people to use the Facebook messaging app in order to, because they knew what was coming. They could read the tea leaves, and so as more and more people started using the Facebook messaging app, you could see what happens. More and more people are using mobile social on mobile now. So mobile is not only driving itself, it's driving other things like the more social activity is being done because of mobile apps. So this tells you where things are going and how social is being driven just like everything else with the rise of mobile.
Hey, Brent, if you have it handy, can you really quickly for the folks on the phone just mention what are the big four messaging apps and social platforms?
Well, I know that Facebook and Twitter, and I'm trying to think, I don't know if Instagram is now one of the big four, but and Snapchat, but those are the ones that are driving everything. And I think the last numbers I saw was that 68% of all mobile engagement is coming through. Now, I think it was Facebook and Google. But only those two are driving about 68% of all mobile engagement. You add the other two, and that takes it up, up to around 80%. So it's hard to believe, but when you think about it, and you think about how often you're in Facebook, and more of your interactions are taking place in Facebook Messenger, then you start to see, well, those numbers make sense because there's 1.6 billion people on Facebook at this point, and I think I saw over 1 billion active Facebook Messenger users now. So I guess it's not that hard to see when you think about the huge impact that Facebook and Facebook Messenger has had on the level of engagement that we have in general when it comes to the internet. And that's why I think it was really when they announced, Facebook announced kind of their Facebook Messenger bots and kind of opening up the Messenger platform for engagement other than just the traditional way that we were using Facebook Messenger, so that now people can provide customer service and support through Facebook Messenger, and it's just completely taken off, and so you're looking at all these different companies who are leveraging or trying to leverage the fact that we do use a mobile app like Facebook Messenger for all sorts of kinds of communication. How can they provide better experiences using the vehicle that a lot of people seem to be using? So you're seeing way more. I forget the actual numbers. I think there's thousands of companies now that are providing Facebook bots, Messenger bots that allow people to get quick answers right from within Facebook Messenger. And a personal example I have is just recently, within the last couple of weeks, I bought a camera from the folks at Livestream, the Mevo camera, which allows you to use Facebook Live, to stream right into Facebook Live just from the camera and the app that comes with the camera. So when I went to the product site, I think it's called GetMevo.com or something like that, and I bought the camera off of the site. One of the things that they asked me for was is to be able to opt in to get updates from Facebook Messenger. And I do use Facebook Messenger quite a bit, so I thought, hey, yeah, it's going to make it easy for me to get some quick updates. That's fine. So I opted in, and then I started getting some of these messages, these notifications. So the first one I got was just an order confirmation that they got my order, and they're going to be sending shipping updates later. But one of the things I thought was, it really kind of caught my attention, and you can see it in the left hand, and with the red circle around it, it says, if I were to send them a question, it's telling me basically that I should expect to hear from them within hours, which totally threw me off a little bit because quite honestly, when I use Facebook Messenger, I really want instant messaging. I want to be able to get a quick answer. And so telling me I will get an answer within a few hours was not making me too happy. But what I saw as the kind of process played out, I was getting these messages, and then the last one I got there, it was basically they had sent it, and they were telling me that here's the tracking number, but look at what they're saying at the top of that one. Typically replies instantly. So what I put together was, and it made a lot of sense, was that when I originally ordered the Mevo camera, it was like at the middle of the night, like midnight or something like that. So they were telling me basically at midnight that, we'll get you an answer within a few hours. And I thought to myself, that makes sense. So they're setting the right expectation because of the instance I bought it, and at the time I bought it, and they're letting me know that, hey, you're buying in the middle of the night, we'll get you an answer in a few hours. But when they were sending me the shipping information, that they're letting me know that it had been left at my doorstep, they're saying if you have a question now, this is the middle of the day, we'll reply instantly. So what are they doing? They're matching their processes and procedures up with the communication that we're using more and more of to provide the kind of experience that you expect today. And hopefully over time they'll be able to do that, match that technology and the experience up as things change over time. But it's really important that they got it right. They're using the modern technology, they're using the engagement channel that we want to use, and they're providing the kind of expectations that make sense. In the middle of the night, okay, a couple of hours sounds fine to me. In the middle of the day, instantly sounds fine to me. So before we start using these technologies, it's important that we provide the right processes and provide the right experiences when we start using those technologies. And just one quick note, because we're hearing about Siri, we're hearing about Amazon Echo, we're hearing about a lot of these digital agents, and they're providing, I think what you'll see is, they're going to be providing better and better experiences over time too. The Echo, you can already order Uber and order a Domino's pizza, so that's providing another kind of experience that makes it easier for folks to get what they want when they want it in a more frictionless manner. And I think we're just at the tip of the iceberg, because it's sometime soon, and this guy Dennis Mortensen, he created a service called Amy that you can schedule your meetings by just sending an email to Amy, which is a digital assistant, saying, Amy, set up a time for me and Mr. Jones here to do a meeting. And so now you don't have to go back and forth. Amy does it. He'll find the time that works and put it on your calendar. So you're going to see more and more of these services coming in that are going to take care of not just ordering pizza, but it's going to be doing things like where am I in my pipeline with this potential opportunity? Where's the holdup? What stage are we in? So being able to ask those kind of questions and get quick responses back from a digital assistant. And your customers are going to be wanting to do that too. Where's the status of this product? When am I going to get it? And being able to ask it and get a quick answer from a digital assistant. That's going to be coming, and that's kind of going to be what the expectations are going to start to creep up around certain quick question answers that people are going to want. So I think we're close to the end here, but we talked a lot about customer experience and how incredibly important it is. And typically when you talk about customer experience, you're talking about the customer's experience in using your product or your service or your interactions solely with that customer, which are incredibly important. But I think what's going to happen at some point in time in the not too distant future, in addition to kind of that focus on creating those great customer experiences when your customer is using your product or service, I think what's going to kind of separate companies that really get the extended customer journey are when you're able to look at how can we go beyond the customer's experience with our product or service and look at how can we make it easier, make it better for their life in general? Are there things that we can do that actually help them beyond just them using our product or service? So if we are able to affect and impact their life experiences, then we're going to extend the level of time that they spend as a customer using our products and services. So I think that's where we're going. We're going to be headed soon. How do we take all this great technology and use it to understand where they're going, not just specifically with our product, but where they want to go in general, and how can we leverage these tools and connect our products and services in a way that helps extend the positiveness of their life experiences. And if we're able to do that, that's the kind of thing that will really attach customers to us over an extended period of time. So I think that's just one of those things that is really incredibly important, that once we nail our customer experiences, once we make it easier for them to do things, once we create better opportunities for them to use our products and services, create better products and services for them, but how do we connect that to their overall life experience and make that even better? So Elvis, I'd love to take any questions if there are any, but this has been great. Thank you for the opportunity to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope everybody on this webinar understands like just the wealth of background and knowledge and experience all this information comes from. So I know I'm personally very, very thankful to have worked with you on this, Brent, and I've learned a ton myself. And yeah, there's been a lot of amazing questions throughout the webinar. There's actually a few more right now. And our first one is actually a really great question. And I will say first before I dig in is for everybody on the phone, as a registrant or an attendee, everybody's going to receive a link to this recording. So you're going to get the slides, you're going to get the talk track, you're going to be able to watch this yourself and pass this along to whomever. But everybody who's on this webinar or anybody that had registered wasn't able to attend, because I know there were a few of you that were not able to, you will get a recording of this webinar very, very shortly afterwards. So back to this question, I think it's really good to point out. We have one of our guests saying that they think this whole thing is, again, like that last slide you talked about, it's more about the user experience than the customer experience. And I would say user experience is, again, another subset of customer experience. But Brent, really interested to hear your take on that.
So could you repeat that? Because right as you were beginning to talk, I got cut out a little bit.
Oh, yeah, apologies. So, yeah, just wondering about, is it more about the user experience than the customer experience, or what is the relationship between the two?
Yeah, so if you're thinking the user experience from a standpoint of maybe an internal standpoint of how do we service the customer better? What do we need in order to service the customer better? They are definitely connected, because if you're a service rep and you want to have everything at your disposal to be able to answer that question, to be able to help them as quickly as possible. So there are internal things that need to be done, and we talked about this a little bit, being able to share those service insights in a structured manner with tools that allow you to share and collaborate, and that provides some level of tool support that allows somebody internally to be able to quickly turn around a challenge that a customer has. And so that's one kind of user experience. The other kind of user experience could be, what are the tools that allow us to let customers do for themselves, the self-service things? How do we leverage self-service to let them find quick answers in a way that's most convenient to them? Be it mobile self-service, be it a digital assistant, be it a Facebook messaging bot. But what are the tools that will allow us to do what we need to do, regardless of the channel, regardless of the actual formatting? And so user experience from both sides of that equation are incredibly important in regards to customer experience, because if we give the right user experiences to our folks internally, based on the kind of relationship they have, whether it's a marketing person or if it's a salesperson or it's account manager or it's a service person, they need the data and the tools and the interaction opportunities that allow them to provide the kind of support that customers are looking for. So user interface, user experience is definitely hand in hand and plays a major role and customer experience.
Awesome. Thank you for clarifying that, Brent. We have another. I actually love this one. I think you're gonna have to put your consulting hat on for this one. So this guest, and this is an awesome question. They're a social media manager at their company, and they're getting a lot of pushback from the customer service team because the customer service team doesn't want to use social. They want to do everything through email and phone. And I guarantee that's probably a use case at like 50% of the people on the phone plus, right? So the question is, any ideas how, this individual can, have them catch the vision of this, how important social is, or how can he sell this vision to the rest of the team?
Wow. Okay. I wish those folks were on the call today. That would have been great. But I think it's really important that, and I've heard this from time to time too, and I've heard that, social doesn't work or doesn't help. But you can't tell that to customers. Customers are going to, technology is in their hands now, and they're able to do certain things that they were never able to do, and because of that, they have more power and control over the things that they wish to get involved in. So, at some point, these folks who want to try to force the customer to use one way or the other, what they maybe don't understand, or maybe they need to be told about is, have you seen our churn rates lately? Have you seen, how come we get a customer today and they're gone tomorrow? And it's, and if I think you give them the hard facts, the concrete facts, that I guess some people need to hear, if this losing this percentage of customers cuts this percentage of revenue off, and that's why you're not getting the bonus. Those are kind of things, the kind of discussions you really have to have with folks. It's not that you're trying to make them do something different just to be different. It's because customers are looking for vendors to do things that are more aligned with the way that technology is moving today, the way that they want to kind of use technology to change the way that they do things. And companies that do not keep up are going to lose, and at some point, jobs are going to be lost because of that as well. So it's, I don't want to sound like gloom and doom, but it's kind of hard to try to dictate to customers who have more and more power every day.
Excellent, and I hope that seals the deal for that gentleman and his company. Because if it only were that easy, right? There's actually another question that was asked. It's I think this is more generally specific to Salesforce and the types of technology. But Brent, I definitely want your take as well, and it certainly relates to what you just said. Is, does the platform change depending on how old your customers are, right? If you're serving 40-plus-year-old customers or different from millennials. And the answer, of course, is yes. And I think I want to caveat this personally, and Brent, of course, chime in. But every single business in the world isn't going to need to use social as a strategy for providing an amazing customer experience, especially if you serve an older audience, if you serve a very old industry where that channel just isn't used. But I think the important thing to know here is that, well, twofold. Number one, you have to know what your customers prefer and how they prefer to reach out to you. And you just want to, at a very basic level, you want to make sure that you're just not missing out on that. And for most people, most businesses that are looking to really grow and get that explosive growth, that tends to mean a very wide market, right? Not a very niche market where you're maybe serving just one small age group over another. But that also brings to light a very, very important point that we didn't address today, and that's just how important it is to have the analytics to inform the decisions you make. And only by using customer service software are you going to have those insights that will tell you on a daily, on an hourly, on a quarterly basis, like how many cases are coming in via social, how many cases are coming in via phone, like how quickly do you respond to those cases, and how does that correlate to people's CSAT scores or NPS or whatever. So in short, yes, absolutely. You have to know your customers, and you will certainly know your customers better than Brent or myself, but you'll need the technology in place so that you know exactly how your customers are reaching out to you, and make sure that you prioritize those channels based on the need. And that's my 2 cents. Brent, anything to add to that?
Yeah, real quick. And actually, you just gave me a great reason to kind of circle back around to that last question that you gave me before, to talk about a positive aspect of maybe helping folks understand why they should be using social. Social can make it easier for you to do your job to a certain extent, and provide opportunities for you to leverage information that you would never get, by because these great systems now you're able to take this information and have some analysis performed on it without you having to do anything, and it'll provide you, with tips and insights that you would have never have gotten before. And so if you're able to use these newer systems, if you're able to take that information coming from social that's mixed in with the transactional, which mixed in with some other pieces, it could provide you answers quicker than you could imagine, and that makes your job easier. So I think it's not just the fact that the customers are moving in a certain direction they expect you to, but there are some actual benefits that will make your job easier in a certain way if you're able to take up the mantle and start using social to do things, or using other newer tools and methodologies to do things too.
Great. And this is an interesting kind of add on to that too, Brent. And it's more along the lines of the less traditional ways to actually use social. And this individual actually is specifically talking about the fintech industry. But I'll actually go ahead and kind of blow that out to, there's a lot of industries out there, healthcare for another one, right, where there's a lot of personal confidential information that needs to be exchanged between a business and its customers. Now, obviously, social, regardless of the scenario, still plays a big part in helping you grow your customer base and keeping customers happy. Have you worked with any companies in either of those realms or another realm that I didn't mention that has a great social customer service use case?
Wow. I have, and it's funny because there were a couple of companies in the use case in this report I did that have done just that. And I don't know if I don't know if I could actually say who they are, but let's put it like this: a major company that changed from a product selling company to a subscription selling company. They changed their whole service model to be able to provide the right kind of support for a subscription-based company, and they based that whole change on integrating social service into that service model. I know it sounds like a little bit of a cop-out, but I just can't tell you who it is.
Okay.
But they basically said, we need to change our service model for subscriptions. We need to integrate social into that new service model, or else it's not going to work. And I will say this: they were a company that were selling millions of software, shelf software, and they went from selling that to, they cold turkey switched off of that to selling subscriptions. They bit the bullet. They got hit a little bit because there's some people who just weren't ready for that switch, but the vast majority of people did. So to the point where within 2 years' time, they went from selling 0 subscription to over 2 million subscriptions.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you for that clarification. That actually puts us right at the hour. Folks, I know there's some of you that had really amazing questions that we weren't able to get to today. I really, really apologize for that. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all the questions, but I hope that everybody was able to get a lot out of this, including these amazing questions at the end of the day. So we will post this recording. Again, Brent, thank you so much for spending part of your day with us. I know you're traveling, so really appreciate you taking some time out to empower us with this information.
Elvis, this was great. I really appreciated being a part of this.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Brent, and thank you everyone on the phone, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.